Today, we're going to dive into a really incredible story. It's about a small community on the Sea of Cortez called Agua Amarga. What you're about to hear is drawn from an oral history shared by Marine steward Paul Bulow, who saw firsthand how this community literally wrote its own rules to protect its people, its amazing wildlife, and its entire way of life. So let's start right here at these exact coordinates. This is Bahia de la Ventana in Baja California Sur. And this place, well, it's defined by this intense, almost unbelievable mix of just staggering beauty and raw, unforgiving danger. They actually call this area the Blue Desert, and you can see why. On one hand, you have this absolutely incredible marine life. Thriving orcapods, massive aggregations of mobile arrays, humpback whales. I mean, it's a paradise for wildlife lovers and, of course, for world-class sailors. But on the other hand, the sailing directories are full of warnings about the very real hazards here. You've got the treacherous Mortos Gap, these powerful wind shadows that can get you into trouble, and super remote four-wheel drive only landings. It's no joke. So that begs the question, right? Who are the stewards of a place like this? Who manages this wild intersection of high-performance sport and, even higher stakes nature? Well, there are really two stories being told here. The first one is the one the world usually sees. The visiting champions on the Hall of Fame, amazing athletes like Daniela Moros and Johnny Heineken. But the real foundation, the safety net for every single person out there, is found on the local Wall of Honor. This recognizes the families, the lucheros, the Giraldos, and the communal landowners, the Ejidos. These are the true guardians of the bay. For years, the whole system ran on unwritten rules, mutual respect. But on February 21st, 2026, everything changed. A false alarm with 4 sailors who just forgot to report their safe return, well, it triggered this massive high-alert search. It was a huge wake-up call. That one event proved that the old ways just weren't enough anymore to handle the growing number of visitors. The community knew it had to do something. And here's the brilliant part. They didn't wait around for outside help. The community used its own legal authority through this really powerful local structure called the Ejido. Now, an Ejido is a form of communal land ownership, and it's actually enshrined right in the Mexican Constitution. It gives local communities the sovereign right to create and enforce rules on their own land. It was the perfect tool to take action. So, using the power of the Ejido, they created what they call the Code of the Water. Let's dive into this amazing system they built, starting with how they protect their own people. Okay, the heart of the entire safety system is the bitácora, which is basically a mandatory logbook. Before anyone heads out for a long-distance sail, they have to sign in their name, the color of their gear, a shore contact, and their ETA. It creates this simple but incredibly powerful web of accountability. Everyone knows who is on the water and, just as important, when they're expected to be back. And then they built this brilliantly simple, clear-headed protocol on top of it, the 30-60 rule. If a sailor is 30 minutes past their ETA, their shore contact starts trying to get in touch. If there's still no word after 60 minutes, a community search is automatically triggered. No hesitation, no waiting around, no delays. This system cuts down on false alarms while making sure the response is immediate in a real emergency. The code also reinforces this deep respect for the bay's traditional economy. Visiting sailors have to stay 50 meters away from any local fishing boat or panga. And this is way more than just a rule of right-of-way. It's a formal acknowledgement that for the local community, this water is a workplace, not just a playground. But the code doesn't stop with human safety. The community extended this exact same level of care to protect the bay's most iconic residents, the orcas. They developed what's now known as the Orca Standard, and it's a set of rules built from decades of local knowledge. It establishes the Cerralvo Channel as an acoustic sanctuary, favoring quiet observation. It puts a hard cap of 16 boats to prevent harassment, and it requires an engine-neutral approach, which means the animals, not the people, control the interaction. All of this is backed up by citizen science, with the next generation of operators like Mayra Lucero and David Geraldo managing the observation logs. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. The local pod of eastern tropical Pacific orcas isn't just stable, it's actually growing. The population has increased, and in 2026, they documented 3 new calves. This is what happens when you have a healthy environment and a community that has genuinely earned the animals' trust. This quote from the community's own charter just captures the spirit of the whole project perfectly. It represents this fundamental shift in mindset.
from a relationship with the ocean that's purely about taking from it to one of active and profitable stewardship.
So, how does a code like this get carried forward? Well, this is a story about legacy and about how that legacy is being rewritten by a new generation of local leaders. You can see this evolution perfectly in the area's founding families. You have the pioneers, men like Juan Luis, Kiki, and Chavo Lucero, along with Adán Giraldo. They built the foundation, making that initial shift from commercial fishing to high-value sport fishing. And now the torch is being passed. The next generation, leaders like Mayra and Rico Lucero, working alongside David Giraldo, they're professionalizing the fleet for low-impact orca ecotourism. They are literally writing the next chapter of their community's story. And all of this brings us to what's being called the Agua Amarga model. And really, this is more than just a local story. It's a blueprint for sustainable development and for community sovereignty. A community takes its ancestral knowledge, formalizes it into a modern charter, and builds a conservation economy that is self-sufficient and resistant to all those harmful outside pressures. So, in the end, this isn't just a story about safety rules or environmentalism. It's about a community looking at its own unwritten rules, its shared values, and making a conscious decision to formally write them down. It is a powerful and really successful exercise of local sovereignty. And that leaves us with a question to think about. Think about the places you live, the communities you're a part of. What are the unwritten rules that kind of hold things together? And what would it take to make them permanent, to preserve the future that you want to see?